All right, we're ready.
Okay, we're calling the meeting to order, April 16th, 8:35, and all present except for Nikki, right?
That's right.
Okay, approval of the minutes of the meeting from last week or last meeting. I guess we just already approving that.
Yep.
I think we're approved, but they all went to Jack, so.
Okay, and all right. And we don't have any guests. Vice Chair report really has nothing much to report. So let's get started with the new permits.
Okay.
2 Goche Lane. We starting off with we used to call a sticky wicket.
Yeah. Yeah, you made this one interesting.
That's mine, Dan. Ken Gordon.
Ken, you always get the doozies, don't you?
I tell you what, that Dwayne, as a former Aggie, he picks on people.
Well, I think we found the right house anyway.
Yeah.
And this is probably, not to belabor the point, but this is probably one of those situations where somebody's on a corner of 2 streets and they have a choice of having a mailbox on or their address on either one of them, and probably Google Earth or the developer named it on the Amble Street, and they decided to name it the Gucci Street or Gochi, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's how the addresses probably got mixed up. But in any event, we went through it. I guess, Ken, do you want to explain what we have here? I mean, to the best of my knowledge, it's pretty simple in the sense that it's already built or virtually built. It's a little tomato garden. It looks very obtrusive, to be perfectly truthful. And it's on a corner property. It's completely enclosed with a mesh. The roof isn't on yet, but they intend to put the roof on. It sits 8 feet high, I sent some pictures to Dwayne. I don't know if Dwayne got them.
I've got them and can put them up whenever you want it.
Well, they can't see him anyway, Dwayne.
That's right, y'all aren't touch screen. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Oh. Well, the whole point is, whether or not we allow this, and this I assume is a compliance thing, right? Does anybody know how it got to us?
It did come through compliance. Yes.
It's okay. I took a quick perusal through the covenants, and I couldn't find anything that directly related to this. Only a couple of similarities, like outbuildings and site structures and fences, et cetera, and so forth. And although there's nothing that I found specific to not allowing this, there's nothing that says that we can have it. And in the past, we have actually faced this where we did not allow something along this lines this high. Now, occasionally we allowed a mesh type of or a tomato protecting shield around the plants, but to have it completely enclosed, we've denied that in other places. But those were on golf courses and or lake properties. This is neither, although it is a corner property and it is very viewable from one street. Now, if you look at this as if it were a shed, because we don't have anything specific, I don't believe, in the covenants to relate to. If you look at it as if it were a shed, it would be pretty obvious from one street, the Amable side of the street. Well, I was wondering if anybody has done any kind of research on this and has found something in the covenants that would be we can use to discuss this against any of the regulations in the covenants. Have you found anything, Ken?
No, I have not. And I have been to the site and called the property owner and left messages and no response. And
Well, I went out. Go ahead.
You went out there also. And
Well,
I don't know how we can. It's already in place and then structured, and it's as built. There's no contractor involved. It seems to be just the property owner. So
What kind of mesh is around it?
it's like a woven a wire, almost like a screen, like a window screen.
It's a greenhouse. I mean, it's like a greenhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the effect of a greenhouse, you know, conserving the heat and all that sort of stuff. But it's just an enclosure to protect against animals.
yeah.
And
it's
if
open
Dwayne could put the picture up, Stephanie can see it.
Yeah.
The roof, you said something that there was a roof. What does that look like? Is it matching the house?
There is
There's
no roof.
no. The roof is mesh also,
Okay.
but it's not on yet. It isn't finished. The sides are on, but the roof isn't on. What we're building here is a bird cage. Essentially, instead of to protect the birds from leaving, it's to protect the birds from coming in to eat the plants.
Yeah.
Actually, I like your greenhouse analogy. That probably is the closest thing that exists in the village.
I think so. I think that we need to evaluate this based on like you said, like you would a storage shed or something in the backyard. So if it's not in an easement, it's not encroaching, it's not in a setback, and it meets
It
the,
is not.
yeah.
It is.
But Stephanie, when we ran into this in the past, and that was like two years ago or more, what we treated it as was a fence. We looked at it as it were a fence, with you're fencing in your planter. That's the way it was looked at because we couldn't find anything to relate to it, so that's the way we treated it. But I was just looking through the covenants to find another way to treat it. And what I told the owner is that, you know, we're going to consider it. I said we might consider it as variance. We might come back and tell you you can leave it in place if you keep it only 5 foot high, just like a fence. I said we'll determine that at the meeting, or we can just leave it as it is. The trouble is, if you see the picture, it's pretty ugly looking when you look at the rest of the house and the property.
Dwayne, can you put that picture up? Let me see it.
Yep. Hang on.
And what I might suggest is that we go ahead and email the photograph. Like if you send it to me, I can email it to the group and you can take a look at it so everybody can kind of see what you're looking at. But it's I mean, it really is, it is more like a greenhouse. It's intended for plants and things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, the plants are in there already.
Yeah.
It's very well built. Let me say this: it's very well constructed. It's got footings. It's got solid rock around it. I mean, they did a good job.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. It's well constructed. They put stone around it, just like a shed blocking the underneath. They really did a nice job on it. It's just it stands out like a sore thumb out there.
The good news is that it's not in an area that has I mean, there's nothing back behind the house. Like you said, it is kind of on a dead end street.
It's just common property behind it.
Yeah.
It's pretty well enclosed around 3 sides. You really, nobody can see it. Just one side on Amable I think it's called Amable Street. You can see it, but really not that much. I mean, if you can see this, you're not watching the road.
Well, what would be your recommendation, Ken and Dan? Did you recommend approval? Because I don't know that there's anything to issue a variance on.
I recommend approval.
Well, before we go for a vote, when you say we can't recommend a variance, what I'm concerned about is if we approve it as it is, we're opening up a whole box of other types of structures being put out there. I mean, I just don't want to start something that we have nothing else to refer to. Because we don't have many of these. Many of them have been turned down. I mean, unless they're attached to the house or something, we've turned down other garden-type structures.
Well,
But for
again,
various reasons.
But we don't have
Now,
to deny it front. There's nothing in the covenants that I can find that
Yeah.
you use to deny that. And I don't know that you could say, again, it's a structure in the backyard that, you know, if they had put a roof on it and called it a shed, you'd say, okay. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, the least we have to say is that the color should match the house. Now, I realize that it's pressure-treated wood and it may need some time, but I think in the comment section, the color should match the house is the least we have to say.
So they need to basically paint that wood, because right now it's just kind of a raw wood.
It is raw. Now, the picture doesn't show the house. The house is a beautiful house. The property is well kept. I mean, the place looks gorgeous. This just seems to be a little, pimple on the property. And if they at least painted the color of the house, it might blend a little.
and I'm going to push back just a little bit there. If this is absolutely natural wood, if we're going to say this has to be painted, then every natural wood fence also has to be painted.
Well, we often say that we say the same thing. We just mentioned that we might have to treat this as if it were a shed. When we work with sheds, we say that the sheds have to match, the roof has to match at least in color. So I'm just trying to keep it within the same realm and the whole logic of it. I don't have a problem with leaving it a natural color. But if we are thinking of it as a shed, then we have to think of it as the rules that require a shed to be out there, right?
Well, but if we're not thinking of it as a shed, but we're thinking of it as a greenhouse, and even on porches and sheds, we don't require the rafters and the posts to be painted.
Correct. All right, so does anybody have any objection to it as it is? Let's put it that way.
I do not.
Well, then let's take a vote to approve it. There's no sense in just going on and on. If we can't find or even indicate that there's any objection by the covenants, then let's just go ahead and approve it. I mean, it's well constructed and all that. They have a door and everything, it's not like it's a shoddy construction or anything. It's well constructed. So Ken, you were recommending approval right from the beginning. So why don't we just take a vote on? Do we have a quorum anyway? Yeah, I guess we do. All right, I'll vote approval. Do I get to vote on this?
Why don't we call for anybody who opposes?
What do you think? I think it's your vote counts.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with it. Okay.
Hearing no other objection, I'll record it as approved.
Okay. See how easy that was, Ken?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
The next one is 3 Barcelona. That's mine. And we have this. This is fairly simple. Most of this is already in place. It's somewhat dangerous. It's more of a maintenance than anything else. The woman has slabs for a walkway. She wants to take away these individual patio blocks and put in a more stable stone that she doesn't have to worry about slipping on. She's putting new gravel in the back of behind the deck, and she's putting stone over the existing stone retaining wall that she has there, or sloped wall. She's just putting new stuff there to make it look better and better for drainage. It's more of a maintenance problem and an upgrade than anything else. There's nothing new here except that she's adding more of similar product to make it look better. And I recommend approval of it. Does everybody see it?
If she's just doing a maintenance issue, does she actually need a permit?
Well, I was thinking about that too. She probably really doesn't, but it's already done and paid for. And
I'll take a look at that when we go out and inspect it. If it looks like it truly she's just refreshing existing materials, then we'll not.
Well, she is adding material, but it would be like a new mulch every year in your garden. You know, your old mulch is all rotted away and eaten up, and now they're putting all new fresh mulch. Well, that's what she's doing here, basically, is putting all new fresh stone to make it look better, because throughout the years it's worn away.
Yeah, that typically would not require a permit, so we'll look at that. We'll look at that.
Okay, so you'll look at whether or not you're going to return the fee. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, but otherwise we can vote for approval.
Yes.
And again, if everyone would, anyone who objects, please speak now.
Okay.
Without objection, I'll record it as approved.
Okay, we ready for the next one?
Yep.
4 Zapata. That's Dwayne.
Okay, hang on a second. All right. What is this? Oh, the driveway. This is a fairly remote little house. I don't know, reasonably new, but it's been there a while. It's on a pretty steeply sloping lot. It has a driveway on a turn, so a very limited frontage. And sorry, y'all can't see this picture, but essentially they propose to sort of widen the driveway after it gets on their property and put a, if you will, sort of parking pad beside the garage up toward the front of the house lot. It's actually at the side of the lot. It's a strange situation, strangely oriented house. They also have some deterioration of joints in the concrete drive that exists, and they've got a retaining wall wood that needs to be replaced. It's at the back edge of the house and the back edge of the garage. And over the years, that's become a direction where water is actually flowing around the house. It's rotted that out and deteriorated it. It does need to be replaced. Their proposal is to simply replace that wooden retaining wall with a concrete one and pour this 400 square foot of concrete. The percentages of use of the front yard is still very reasonable. It's in the 30-35% range for driveway. I recommend that we approve this. Any
Okay.
questions? I do have pictures, but aside from emailing them to y'all, I don't know a way to get you one.
And we're pretty confident it's not being put in there to store a trailer or something.
I wouldn't tell you that, but essentially the truck that apparently lives in the driveway, I'm sure is going to migrate over there. Again, this, if you will, the parking area is already about 10 or 12 feet below the road. It's not exactly in the front or anything abnormal.
Well, we don't, it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, if they park something that's not allowed, that'll be an issue through compliance later. It's really better not the driveway. Yeah.
It's concrete, not gravel, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The existing driveway is concrete and the proposed addition will be concrete. And it also, because this is taking all of the drainage, this concrete pad also kind of works to move that drainage away from the house foundation and out just a little bit. It looks very appropriate.
Okay, you recommend approval?
I do.
Okay, we have no objection. Let's go to the next one.
Got it? Which I think is also me.
9 Corridor.
It is, which is a storage shed. This is, it's a fairly skinny, fairly deep lot on Lake Coronado. This house has a very, very steep drop down to the lake, and they've got a boat dock down on the lake. They propose to put a 7x7 prefab shed from Lowe's or Walmart, I forget. And it's very literally a little bitty storage shed. It is not in the setbacks. It may be in a sewer easement, but I don't know that it's actually an active one. They've got a grinder up at the house. This, in my view, looks very reasonable, and I recommend that it be approved.
What is it, halfway down the hill or something that they would have to?
I think the 20-foot setback from the lake is, they're going to use that as the boundary. It's along their concrete, it's along their walkway, and I don't know what that walkway was made of.
Okay, so it's probably storage for lake related or dock related things. Okay.
Absolutely so. And it's a
Okay.
dinky little thing, 7x7.
Don't we have
Okay.
something that prohibits sheds on lakefront or golf frontage?
Well, what it says, Janet, is that storage and outbuildings on lakefront or golf-facing lots, except for freestanding garages, are reviewed on a case-by-case basis by the ACC. So,
Okay,
you actually guys have a lot of leeway there. We
okay.
Right, and we do allow certain storages right on the dock. to tell you the truth. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
This
so
actually,
you're recommending approval?
I do, this would look better than trying to put it out on their boat slip.
Yeah. Did you talk to them about color or anything? I mean, is it something that
I
they're
did.
gonna paint, or is it pre-finished or
did.
what?
I did not. It's a pre-finished. They sent along the picture. I've got the picture. Let's see, it's right here. But
It looks like it's more like that, almost like that Rubbermaid kind of plastic looking.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not
Slightly darker
chartreuse with pink polka dots.
No, it's,
not that bad.
Okay.
From looking at the end of the lake, this isn't the only storage building of that sort in the area.
Right. Right. Okay. No objections? Like, the next one is 10 Victoria Lane.
Okay, on the permit, it needs to be on the face sheet of the permit, it needs to be changed to Victoria Lane because the owner had no idea how to spell the name of his street. He called it Victory Lane.
oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think we have one of those, and it took me a while to figure it out. But this guy has a very small setback on his front yard. It's all gravelled. He has foundation plants that are mulched, and then he has a small island in the middle of all of his gravel that is mulched. He wants to take all the mulch out and replace it all with gravel, which puts it below our landscaping requirements. So I would say to disapprove.
Did you actually discuss it with him? I mean,
I couldn't get a hold of him, and it's kind of obvious that what is there, he's got pine straw as his mulch. He hasn't maintained that. So I think he's looking for even a less maintenance level.
when you say he doesn't meet the requirements, you're talking about the requirements for a new house?
Well, if he's going to be redoing his landscaping, I think we need to have it follow what we're requiring of other people. And this would be an all gravel lot with a couple trees stuck in the middle and a couple bushes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Janet. There, and I drove by that house too. It basically, anytime you redo landscaping, you have to at least meet or exceed the current standard. And the standard today is, you know, whatever, 30% organic or whatever it is. And he's basically taking all of the organic material out of the property, right? Off of the property.
Yeah, well, he's leaving the shrubs that are at the foundation and then the plants that are in the little island. I know most of us aren't on visual, but I did submit pictures to Dwayne, so at least you and Dwayne can look at what I submitted.
Now, you said there's some trees on the property. Are those trees surrounded by a mulched area, or is it gravel right
No, they're stuck in the middle of this little island that's in the middle of the pre-existing gravel.
Okay, and that doesn't meet the requirements.
Well,
enough organic space.
It's fine the way it is. If he just replace, all he has to do is refresh his mulch, but he wants to take
Right.
all the mulch beds out and just put gravel everywhere and have the plants coming up out of the gravel.
Okay. Are we denying these and putting a cost of denial, or just putting denial in?
No, we have to put the reason. We have to say the reason. And the reason on this one would be that it doesn't meet the minimum standard for organic material.
Which is 35.
Okay. But do we have a number in the covenants to refer to? A
We do.
section?
Yeah, we do. I'll find that and I'll get it to Dwayne and he'll have to note that on the minutes.
Okay.
I'm looking for it right now, but
probably 13 something.
No, it's actually not. It's where the frontage, it's 9.8-4, it's 9.8-4, frontage yard requirements. It talks about 2 trees, 10,000 square feet, every planted on all sides of the house facing create a 45% minimum organic surface.
Okay, that
It's
9.8
9.8-4.
dash 4. Oh, you're talking about a table.
It is, yeah. It's where it tells you what is the requirement in frontage yard landscaping.
9.8 dash 4. Okay.
No, 30% paved.
No, that's
See down at the very bottom where it says continuous yard and it says planting, surface, walkways, and fencing. The planting is 3 trees, 1 large plus 2 small per 1,000 square feet minimum, and foundation shrubbery.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And 9.8.3 frontage directs you to that table for the requirements of landscaping in the front yard.
Okay.
Okay.
You got that, Dwayne?
Yeah, it's recorded. I'll show you the notes afterwards.
Okay. So any objection to the objection?
So entered.
Okay. All right, Captura. 13
Okay.
Captura Circle.
This guy's
Huh?
doing the exact opposite of the Victoria Lane. He's taking his rock out and replacing it with sod, so I would move to approve.
Oh, we ought to put them in contact with each other.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm good.
and Stephanie, can you see this? And Dwayne, can you see it? I mean, is it?
Yeah, I had to actually
Anybody
open
see
it,
it?
but
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the application. It's
yeah, Zoya.
improving.
This should be a this should be a no-brainer, no?
Correct.
Yes, and the house next door has grass in the front, so I mean, it's going to blend with the neighborhood and it'll improve the look of the house.
Okay.
So I move to approve.
Any objections? No? Let's,
Done.
okay. 15 Asombroso.
That's mine, Dan, Ken Gordon.
I hear you.
I took pictures of that as vacant lot, undeveloped. I sent those to you guys. Should be up. This is a carriage home, proposed carriage home. It meets all of the ACC checklist, neighborhood, size and of the house, etc. The plot, the elevation plans, the tree conservation is all in the application. The roofing material, they claim is going to be a wheat neutral, natural brick and vinyl house. So I move to approve this carriage home house.
One
So what does he
question.
say about tree? What does he say about tree conservation? Is he showing a lot of trees saved, or is he just saying that he'll try and save as many as he can?
That's what he said, save as many as he can, but he will meet the requirements as per our tree conservation plan.
Okay, well,
And Dan, he actually
Yeah.
identified 8 trees that will be saved, front and back.
okay. All right. Everything else seems okay. I'm looking at the one across the street. He's got one right across the street also.
Yeah.
Okay, any objections? I mean, you're recommending approval, so is there any objections? None?
So,
All right, let's go to the next one. 16, Assombroso.
That would be mine, and I did have Dan shadow me on this. It's right across from the property that Ken looked at. One thing we found out on this, there's basically no hardwood on this property. It is nothing but junk material, straggly pines and elms and stuff like that. I would imagine they're probably going to tear everything out and rebuild again, and it is on a golf course. So it's a carriage house.
Yeah, he'll tear everything out.
he
On this
actually
one,
showing
yeah.
he'll preserve 5.
Yeah, especially since he's saving 4 by the golf course, so that's, and it's in the back of the house, so it shouldn't really interfere with his construction procedure. So it shouldn't be a problem saving the 4 behind it. And I think at this point in time, that's probably the most important, is to save the ones by the golf course.
Yeah, there's some decent ones there, but everything else is just junk. I mean, it's just,
Well, we had the landscape calculation sheet. He knows what he has to do later on in the landscape application, and that's when we're going to have to, face up to getting the job done in accordance with the covenants at that time. But to get the thing going now for approval, do we have a recommendation on this?
I recommend that we approve this.
Okay. We looked at the neighborhood, and it all fits in with the neighborhood, and the colors are all acceptable, and most of these carriage homes, they all look like cookie cutters. You're never really sure if you're getting something that's being inventive right off the bat. I always feel like they're picking something off the shelf. But in any event, as long as they, in the end, meet the requirements, then we've done what we're supposed to do.
What color were the shingles on the house that you had?
I think they use about.
Ken, are you with us?
Hey, Ken?
What?
Ken, you there?
Yes, I have no problem. Your
Well,
recommendation.
what color were the shingles of the house that you looked at the other day? For carriage homes.
Neutral color.
Okay.
Neutral or natural?
Natural.
Okay, this is weathered wood, so the shingles would be a different color, so there's going to be some variation between the houses across the street from each other.
I think you're looking at the siding, Ken. He's talking about the shingles on the roof. What does it say on yours?
It just said natural.
Okay. Okay. Good.
All right, so you recommend approval on this? Stephanie, what are we having any particular problems with carriage lately in the finished product versus what's being proposed?
We have not. Nope.
Okay. Well, Jack spent a lot of time with them and John, and it looks like they got someplace with it. But
We have a good relationship with them actually, and they do a nice job of getting their applications in and complete and that sort of thing too. So no, we're not having any issues at all.
okay, there's no reason to be suspicious or anything like that. So
No, and
we have a recommendation for approval. No denials? Let's go to the next one. 16 Gozada.
Oh, this is a beautiful lot. Absolutely gorgeous lot.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
even got a slip in it. It's on the golf course and on the lake. This is good stuff. But this house has got unmentionable hardwoods, very mature, very beautiful piece of property. And with their, it looks like everything is looking good as far as the layout on the house and then the tree conservation. I think the conservation could be a lot more than what they have. It looks to me like there are only like 4 of them. They just put dots out there. And I would say they need a little bit more tree conservation on this property, because these trees here are very mature and very, you got hickories, you got walnuts. I even think I saw a beech in there. But I would entertain approval of this with the condition that try to save as many hardwoods as possible.
Which is what he says on his proposal. We'll save as many as possible. And the good news is, what I think Rob's trying to say is that he has a lot of opportunities to make this come true, because he has a lot of choices there. The only problem he has is he's got some monster pines on there, and when he knocks these pines down, he's going to take a bunch of those trees down with him, which is what often happens when you remove a lot of pines. You take other trees with them. So, but he does have an awful lot of trees, and if there's ever been an opportunity to save a bunch of them, this is a lot for it. But that will come out in the calculation at a later date. The only problem is, and it's not our function, I don't believe, to try and control this. But how do we get them to thinking this is the time to save them? Because if you knock them down, you can't put them up except for young trees. There's an awful lot of nice, beautiful, mature hardwoods there that a decent effort to retain them will work. But you know how that works. We don't really have that much control over it, but there is an opportunity here to save a lot.
I would say, Dwayne, that just put in the conditions, we try to save as many hardwoods as possible. And that's all I'd say.
He's already stated that on his permit. It's not a permit
Yeah.
condition we need to add.
Okay.
The one, again, this really is a little beyond our purview, but the one place where he can really save trees is that whole setback along the golf course. There's nothing going on there. It's a long strip. You can put a runway there, and he can save a lot of trees along the Granada golf course in the setback. And that's where he's got the opportunity to do it, unless of course he's got an owner that says, I want to see the golf course. But that's the place for the opportunity, especially along the drive that's going up to the house. Does everybody see this?
Yeah.
No one sees it.
Well, I mean, I can't, but all we can do, guys, is like you said, is mention it to them, show them that landscape calculation sheet, which tells them the number of trees that are going to be required at the end.
Right.
And then manage it from the back end when the landscaping plan comes in. So all I can do is just tell them that we're gonna expect a certain number of trees, and then let them do their
Oh,
work.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't see it here, but I remember the calculation sheet, I believe, had a slew of trees, like 40-something trees had to be saved.
Yeah, it's not that many, but it's like 12 in the back and 15 in the front.
Oh, that's all?
8 in the front and 12 in the back.
There you go.
Boy, this property looks bigger than 17,000. Okay. Oh, any responsible person will have no problem saving 12 beautiful trees
Yeah.
on this lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So do we want to make any kind of a notice, since it already says we will save as
No.
many as possible? Okay,
No.
so there's really no need, we could just vote for approval as it is?
Yes.
Anybody objecting? No? Okay. Approved then?
No, Mark,
Next one. What is that, 19 Talana?
Alana is mine. This is a fairly recently built house. We approved the landscaping within my memory. It's a nicely done, nicely landscaped. Everything is great about that. It's on Lake Balboa. And this thing is a very, very steep on the lake lot. They actually put in, I think, a gravel pathway or started to put in a gravel pathway when they realized it wouldn't stay in place. So they want to change that gravel pathway to a concrete pathway, exactly where the other one was already approved. Everything looks very reasonable. Most of the neighbors actually have a staircase arrangement. You know, 150 foot of stairs going down. This looks appropriate. I recommend we approve it.
Oh. When you say he's replacing the gravel with concrete, does it show a width? I mean, he's not going to, this isn't going to be a roadway in the back there, is it?
It's a sidewalk width. No, it's not a drivable thing except for, you know, it doesn't really show to be golf cart wide. So I don't think that's the intent. And there's no access around the house to drive to it otherwise. It's just a sidewalk.
Okay.
Well,
I
even
just-
with
I
that in
think-
mind, we've got a whole bunch of them over here on Lake Coronado on steep slopes that people use their golf carts on to get their gas down to their boats.
Thank you.
Yeah, golf carts, okay. It's just that we don't want people putting in roads and
Oh, exactly.
disguising them as walkways.
This is-
Okay. That,
this
I don't
isn't
have anything in front of me to look at, so I just asked the question. So you're comfortable it's a walkway to replace the gravel because the gravel is going to wash out because of the depth. Is that
Or
what you're
already
saying?
has. I didn't
Yeah.
get that part, but we already approved this as gravel. Moving it to concrete is, I think, just a necessary to have it be useful and not injure someone trying to go down it.
Okay, you're recommending approval?
Yep.
Okay. If we have no denials, let's go to the next one. 26 Fierro. You're up again, Dwayne.
Also me, yeah, Sierra, hang on. There's a new house. And essentially, yeah, this is just a brand new house. So.
There's carriage.
There it is.
Yeah.
Looks to be carriage. Yes, carriage. And everything normal on a carriage. This is on Isabella Golf Course. Again, a very straightforward carriage looking house, weatherwood shingles, I believe, and brick exterior. Yeah, nothing otherwise out of the ordinary. The tree conservation plan that they sketched in actually includes 10 I guess, 9 trees they're definitely planning to keep or try and keep. And they say they will save as many more as they can. The landscape conservation plan calls for a few more, but they're going to save half of them. It seems very reasonable, and I recommend its approval.
Okay, and no problems with infringing on the setbacks or anything like that, so.
No, they actually are considerably clear of all of their easement lines.
All right, if we have no objection, you're recommending approval, right?
I do.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. And if anybody has any comments, just butt in.
All right, this one's mine on 31 Forjador Lane. It is on the golf course. It is being built by Blue Sky Homes. It's got a tremendously long driveway in off the end of a cul-de-sac. He's got the trees marked. The landscape calculation calls for 45 trees to be saved in the front because it is a huge lot. The house goes right up to this building setback on the golf course. He is removing all the trees in the backyard except for one cedar tree. The landscape calculation calls for 23 trees. So I don't know.
23 trees. Are you talking in the back? 23 trees in the back?
Yes, and that backs onto the golf course. So I don't know if we can suggest to him, as we did maybe on the other, that, hey, you're going to have this many trees. You might want to try to save more than have to plant more. The house is going to be brown in color with a black shingle roof. It's all lap siding. I don't see any brick or rock on any of the diagrams for it. The architecture in the neighborhood is kind of eclectic. Right next door, there's one of those Ephes-sided homes. Up the hill is a castle made out of brick and rock. And the nearest, it's a beautiful home. I've been in that one. And then the house that would be on the other side is kind of French country with all stone fascia on it. So it being set back, I'm not sure that you would really notice that it was just lap siding. But otherwise, the elevation looks nice. So I would recommend approval and just have some sort of note that he might want to relook at what he's going to keep for trees in the back.
I will tell you, just for information, yeah, you're right, we can certainly talk to him a little bit about trying to save as many as he can in the back. I'm going to relook at that landscape calc sheet because that doesn't look right to me when I look at how far back he's setting that house on that property. That sounds like a lot of trees for how much space is left once you look at the,
I thought that too.
That was my question.
Huge lot. It's almost an acre lot. So
But most of that, there's still a lot.
It's in the front.
Yeah, it's in the front. So, and then the other thing is that even though it's on the golf course, there is a significant amount of property. The cart path is on that side of the fairway there. And it's a large wooded area between his lot and the actual golf course. So there's going to be a ton of trees behind him. Even with his gone, there's going to be a bunch. So anyway, I'll look at the landscape calc sheet and just kind of make sure that's right. When you look at it with the property line, there's a lot of trees between him and the golf course.
Well, Stephanie, would this be one where we should suggest that every effort be made to save as many trees as possible in that area? Because once they tear them down, and not only that, if this house is right up against the setback, if he wants to put a porch or something like that, he's going to be in trouble.
No, he's got the deck, he's got actually a triple type deck. It's got two larger pieces and then a connecting type small deck. And that is well behind the setback. It's a
Oh.
weird shaped lot.
Yeah.
It's like two sides of the house face the golf course.
And there's just
Okay.
kind of one corner that touches the setback, and then the on the kind of right side of the house, the left side is got lots of room for a deck or anything else you might want to put over
Yeah,
there.
and that's where they're putting the deck is on that side, not on the shorter side.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, this has
I would move-
250 foot of driveway just to the house.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a huge lot.
Yeah.
So I would move to approve.
Okay, if we have no objections, we'll approve it.
So entered.
Next one is 37 Calanas,
How about
the boat
Balboa?
dock. Oh, wait a minute,
Badalona.
I skipped one. 32 Badalona, that's me. Okay, this is not just a sticky wicket, this is a disaster. This deck is already in place. And it's a job that's done by up and down door service, garage door company. And about the only, well, anyway, it's really actually poorly constructed deck. The railings on the stairs going down the deck do not meet code. The railings on the deck do meet code, but they're not parallel to one another. They're pretty crooked. And it's just a real sloppy job. Structurally, it's fine. The deck will hold. That's not the concern. The concern is the aesthetics of it. Now, I asked Sid, since it was already constructed, and I assume this came through some kind of complaint or something, or somebody said something about getting a permit after the fact. But in any event, Sid went out and looked at it and said, as it's constructed, he would not approve it. So this deck needs to, if nothing else, needs to be corrected per code.
So what we
Now, if you look,
But what we need to do is either approve or deny based on the location and design or whatever, if it meets our, and then Sid will then deal with having them rip out what's not right. You know what I mean? Like if you approve it, because if we approve the deck because it meets the requirements of express, it's not in the setbacks, not in an easement, that sort of thing, then Sid will then go and inspect it, and he'll actually make them remove what is not proper.
okay, so, yeah, so what you're saying is make believe it's not there.
Correct. Exactly right.
Okay, and just review it on its own merits as shown on the plan.
That's correct.
Okay, well, there's no railing shown on the staircase, so the first thing is that the railing needs to be put on a staircase. So we can actually deny it for that reason, or qualify it that a railing has to be added.
You could qualify it.
Because if you look at the drawings, there's no railing shown on the staircase. Has anybody got the drawing?
I do.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it doesn't meet or match. But But by the same token, like you said, Stephanie, the only thing we can say about it is add railing to stairs.
Yeah, because again, code would not allow that either. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Sid wouldn't approve it. I mean, they couldn't build it without railing. It wouldn't get approved
Okay.
through the inspection process. So yes, I think you can definitely
Okay.
qualify it if the deck itself is, if it's the right materials and it's not, again, not in an easement, not in a setback, all that kind of stuff. You need to prove it, and we could make that note though on the minutes that says drawing does not accurately reflect the railing on the staircase, which would be required, and that kind of thing.
Okay, well, if we're just going through the motions on this just to move it along and sort of like step back in history, and that's fine. But by us, if we were to say we approve this or deny it, I mean, what are you suggesting? We approve it and then let the inspection process take over?
Well, again, assume it's not there. So when we look at the plan, I'm not, it does, from the drawing, it's not in the setback, right?
Correct.
This is a deck.
Correct.
This is a deck on the front of a house though, right?
Correct. It's actually a replacement to an existing deck,
Okay.
which isn't there anymore. Okay.
But in looking at the plan, you're right. There was a deck. And so they've replaced what used to be there.
Correct. I mean,
Stephanie,
if we were going back in history, this plan, we would approve it. It wouldn't be a problem because it meets any of the criteria that we normally work with. About the only thing that we mentioned is that it needs railings on a stair. But like you said, that's a code compliancy. But that's something we let the owner know in advance so that he doesn't wait for an inspection to find out it doesn't meet code. But other than that, the concept of putting this is approved. I mean, that's what you're alluding to, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a problem with that as long as the rest of the process takes over, and I think I don't think there's any doubt that Sid would deny this.
Jana, what were you going to say? We're trying to. Jana?
I didn't catch.
Well,
would your office also follow through with a double fine or a permit fee because they've already built prior to? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep, we will. And I am looking at the jazz and whatnot, and you can see where it had a deck on the front before. So you're right. So it is just a replacement of an existing deck. They're just going to have to build it properly. And so yes, I don't think there's any reason we would deny. Again, if it wasn't built, we would not deny this. We would note that the drawing doesn't show the railings, and that would be required. And like that's going to get caught in inspection anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Sid's got many reasons to deny this. I mean, even the treads aren't the same size. I mean, you'll be walking up there, and one tread would be 11 inches, and the other one would be 9 inches. I mean, that's how bad it is.
Wow.
But in any event, we can, on a conceptual basis, as a proposal, yeah, it meets our qualifications.
I think we should vote to approve it then.
Yeah, no problem. I just would, somehow or other, we're basically approving it as if it didn't exist, is what we're saying.
Correct.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't walk up that stair. No, actually, structurally, it's fine. Okay, as long as we have no objection, we'll move on to the next one, which is you. 37 Calanus Lane. This is a boat dock. It's a townhouse, but it doesn't fall under the Townhouse Association because it's only a boat dock out on the lake. I spoke to Nathan, what's his name, Cheney, and he doesn't have one crucial dimension, but he knows now, and he recognizes that he can't exceed 28 feet. And it won't exceed 28 feet. It comes out from the center of their property. It's a fairly good sized boat dock for a townhouse. It's not a boat dock. It's actually a swim dock. There's no roof on this. And there's, I don't see any problem with it. Let me see. It's going to be stained at a later date or tone. And, the one thing that came out of it is probably a result of this coronavirus is that there's no stamp on this. And the woman said that she spoke to Beverly and said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it later. So I'm sure she's making some kind of notes, I hope, that sooner or later this is going to be paid for and stamped, or it may be paid for and not stamped. But anyway, there's no stamp on it, but apparently we know about it, and it has to do with contact or something. Have you had any of these other than this one, Stephanie?
Yeah,
Where
we're
there's no
doing,
stamp?
I haven't seen a no stamp. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'll follow up on that, but definitely we're doing things a little differently than normal. So like where there's no applicants.
Yeah, I can imagine something like this happening. It's just that somebody needs to make sure there's notes kept and that we do recover from it when we get cranking back up again. But other than that, the shape of this, the design, the contractor is all no problem, and I recommend that we approve it. And if we have no objections, we'll move on to the next one. 88 Largo Drive.
58 Largo.
Oh, 58.
Oh, this is a beautiful house. The previous owners have done some work, or they've done some work earlier in water diversion. And they've got some planters out front of the house. What they're going to do is they're going to use boulders to build a terrace and level it out with some garden soil in through there, put some bushes and some trees. It's on quite an incline, and so as a result, the terrace won't be any more than 2 foot tall, using the boulders, and then filling in again with garden soil and putting in plantings and that kind of such. And I would propose that it would be approved.
Yeah, just for information, this is more of a maintenance thing than anything else. This piece of property slopes down towards the house, and they've had some problems with water in the past, and they've done a tremendous amount and spent a lot of money on French drains and channeling water away from the house, et cetera, et cetera. And now they going back and sort of like correcting some of the landscaping to add to that and help control water even more. So it's more of a soil erosion and a beautification or beautifying the area as well than it is something that they would put in ordinarily. This is a result of practically a maintenance thing. And as Ron said, it's a beautiful piece of property, and most of this is existing. They're just upgrading it, and you recommend approval, right?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
Nope.
Is everybody still there?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay, can we move on to the next one?
Last one.
94 El Cano.
That's mine, Dan.
You still there, huh, Ken?
I think we
I have-
lost him for
go
a
ahead.
minute, but he's back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I have several questions. Being the newbie on the ACC, when looking at this plan, this is a Renaissance house, proposed house, and I sent you 2 pictures of the lot.
I
It's
do
lot
have them.
10, and the photos that I sent showed a what I thought was a significant drainage issue on between the lot 10 and 11. And my question is, how do we as an ACC deal with my ignorance there of this drainage debt?
You know what we do is, Ken, is we don't get involved in drainage because we don't have civil engineering expertise in house or even on a committee. So we don't want to take any kind of a liability position there with giving guidance or advice on drainage. And we can note that we recognize that there is some drainage issues and that they should be aware of it, but we do not get involved in telling them what to do, how to do it, or just knowing that it's there.
Excellent. That's a good approach, and I just had that question, and they show up on the photos that I took. All right, the other questions that I have, Dan and Stephanie and crew, is on Renaissance plan, he says king size brick, but he doesn't put a color on the brick. And I don't know how to deal with that when we're not talking about color.
Well,
So I'm asking that question.
typically we would
Well,
just ask them to go ahead and note the color. If it's missing, if we don't have it, we would ask them to, when we give them the permit, we need to note the color of the brick, and we'll just.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with Ken, before we have these meetings, there's nothing wrong with calling them up and discussing with them and see if you can get to at least admit to an earth tone color or something along those lines. Because Renaissance is very cooperative with things like that. I mean, I've never had a problem with them in the past.
Well, that's good. And in the future, I will make that phone call. He does say in his plan that the roof shingles will be black gray, but the brick color just says king size and doesn't talk about color. The last question.
I say
Go ahead.
it's a custom house, so I mean, quite possibly they haven't even picked out the colors yet. The brick, the exact. It's like Dan said, we can go ahead and just have them note that it's going to be in an earth tone range, so that they've committed to that.
Right.
Okay, and the third question that I have is they do not attach a tree conservation plan at all
Yeah,
in the permit application.
they do.
yeah, they do.
Ken. So that
That
last
last
page where the yellow highlight is shows the areas where they're going to keep all the trees.
So that would constitute a tree conservation plan?
Yeah, basically they're saying they're not going to cut any trees in those areas.
Ken, what he's saying there, when they highlight that yellow area and they color it in, what they're basically saying is they're going to keep that as natural looking as possible, that they're not going to touch it construction wise, and that when you go out there and visit the site and you look at those areas, and you see trees there, you can almost assume that those trees are going to stay there.
Well, there's no
You
way.
understand what I'm saying?
I agree with that. There's no way he can build a house without knocking down or excavating a lot of the trees, because this tree is tree covered a lot. I just wanted to ask that question, and I think you and Stephanie answered it.
Yeah, but can he build a house without destroying the trees in the yellowed out area?
Okay. Well, like I said, as a newbie, I'm learning.
Oh, okay, but the question is, if you can see a yellowed out area, if that yellowed out area, and again, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't talk that I can see it. If the yellowed out area is outside the lines of the driveway and the house, then what he's telling you is in that area he's going to save trees.
Okay.
Can you have a yellowed out area in front of you?
Yes.
No, I do not see it
I
on
have
what
it.
I'm looking.
I have it.
Okay,
And there's
good.
a section along in the front yard along the left side. If you're sitting at the house, the left side, all the way down the property line, he's got that yellowed where he's going to keep trees. And then in the backyard, there's 2 spots plus the entire right side corner. It's a pretty large area that he says he's going to keep the trees, where outside of the footprint of the house, there's plenty of room to save trees on that back side. So,
Good.
yeah, I don't
Ken,
Good.
Ken, do you have a color printer?
I didn't understand you.
Do you have a color printer?
I do not.
Okay, that's why you can't see the yellow area. Unless you're looking at your computer would show the yellow area, but if you're looking at a printed out copy, you won't see the yellow.
Well, I am looking at the computer, and I don't see what Stephanie was referring to, but great. I think that's good.
Again,
It's not clear.
Ken,
And
it's the
you've
very
answered
last
some
page.
questions. I would like to know what color the brick he plans to put up there.
Well, we'll note that in the minutes, and we'll contact Brandon at Renaissance and ask him to, we'll make sure that that's on the permit application, that's got to be.
Good.
And he always does. I mean, that's just consistent with everything he does. So.
Well, the way I think we need to do this right now on this particular example is that Dwayne is going to type this up and send it out to Ella by tomorrow, I assume. So this afternoon, Ken can give Renaissance a call and find out and get that information to Dwayne, and Dwayne can put it in the report.
Well, the one thing
Sounds
that,
good.
like Stephanie has stated before, since it is a custom home, they may have not picked a color, but they can give an idea. It will be in the earth tone.
That's right, and that's all we need to have.
Yeah.
So Ken, how about you making that call after we get on to the meeting and find out from him if he can keep that in the earth tone colors. I mean, all we're trying to do is rule out something that would not pass. We don't have to know exactly what's going in as long as it meets earth tone colors or something like that, but we just don't want it, like I say, we want to avoid chartreuse,
How about pink? Yes. I'll do that. I'll call Renaissance and ask that one question and get back with Dan. I mean,
with
Dwayne.
Dwayne.
Yeah, you bet. Other than that, I move we approve.
Okay, and Stephanie, you can see the yellow area, and it looks like there's some area where they can save some trees.
It does. He's got it marked. Yeah.
And Ken, when you looked at the site, you didn't see a lot of big open spaces. Most of it had some trees on it. So whatever Stephanie's looking at has trees in it, I assume.
Good. No, when I was out there, it was all treed lot.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. All right,
But I have-
then if you know,
And Stephanie answered my question about that drainage ditch between lot 10 and 11.
correct.
Yep.
And keep in
Okay.
mind, Ken, that when we have builders, the builders are actually responsible for and do a pretty good job at solving those drainage problems. The time that you really have to be concerned if you got a homeowner building his own house, they may not always recognize the problem. So you could just discuss it with them, but it's not really in our purview. But it doesn't hurt to help people out with that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody disapprove of? All right. Well,
I've entered it.
now we're not finished yet because I saw something this morning, and again I don't understand how this quite works, but something came on my computer that said we have a new project. Does anybody know about that?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean it came across your computer? People are making changes to Dropbox?
Yes.
Well, that's,
Something came up that they changed the Dropbox and they added a project.
no, so
Something happened.
no, all that means, Dan, Dan, is that every time we get permit applications all the time, every day. And so when she gets them and as she's processing them, she's putting them in Dropbox. So the next Dropbox file will be our next meeting. And so she's adding things to the next meeting folder. And you're getting notified that she's doing that. So there's nothing new in this folder that we haven't discussed though. You've covered everything for this meeting.
Okay. Yep. All right. Is there any? There are no other projects, right?
Right.
All right. Now, some of these projects really should have been compliance. I guess one or two of them compliance ones, but that doesn't matter. Do we need to review any of those ones in compliance? I mean, they just sort of like hang around like a skin sore or something.
No, and I'm going to recommend that we take things that are compliance related off our minutes. They really aren't, they don't belong there unless it's something that we're actually actively reviewing. I don't know that it's beneficial in any way, you know?
Well, can we ask Dwayne to remove these things, or you want to keep them here for now?
No, I think we should remove them. I mean, things that are in compliance are compliance, and that's just outside of what ACC is working on. So, I don't.
Dwayne, get your pencil eraser out and get rid of that Jacoby, Saboti, and DeSoto.
My only question about that is that essentially these were questions we sent to compliance and we've never received an answer from compliance.
Well, I mean, if it's actively being worked in compliance, it's a compliance problem. If there's a permit application that comes back to you, you guys would end up reviewing an application. Otherwise, it's just being worked through the compliance system.
Well, in the conditions column, the first one we know is up for sale, and the other two are waiting. But if they can be awaiting forever, it doesn't have to be on our list.
I like it. Let's go ahead and get rid of it.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
shortens this report considerably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a couple. Is it time for me to give you some updates, or we still have?
Updates on those?
No. Just stuff.
It's just time for the Director of Planning's report.
Well, I wanted to give you a little update on George. I heard from John Froning
Thank you.
today, and he took a pretty bad turn and was really not well at all. They that his kidneys were failing and he had pneumonia and a couple other things. And anyways, once they figured out what was wrong, they were able to change his course of treatment, and he's doing much better now. And I think they're hopeful that he'll leave the hospital and go back into rehab towards the end of this week. And that was the last update that I had. So still kind of waiting to hear about him. And I honestly think that we ought to, I just can't really talk to him now, but I just don't have a good feeling that he'll be able to return to the ACC time, you know, so we might need to be thinking about that position is going to be vacated. So anyway, we wish him all the best and be praying for his quick recovery, but he's, you know, he's got some recovery to do yet. And I don't know how strong he'll be when he gets back. But beyond that, I want to tell you that the board meeting happened yesterday, and they did approve our protective covenant recommendations with one exception. So there was some feedback from the community regarding the radio antenna recommendation that we had made. So what it stated before was that the antennas were restricted in height and location in frontages, and we added also in sight lines on golf courses and lakes. If you're going to put like a ham radio antenna up, we were trying to protect the aesthetic on views from golf courses, lakes, and front yards. And the ham radio community was pretty adamantly opposed to any restriction in antenna because, one, they provide a valuable resource in times of emergency and things like that. And secondly, it's all about location and signal, and where they can get the best signal is where they put the antenna. And so what we did is basically pulled that recommendation from the review with the caveat that the ACC would invite some members of the ham radio group to come in and visit with us, and we can make maybe a little bit better, more informed decision after we hear from them and understand the challenges that they face and what they're looking for. And there's all kinds of information. I can send it to you. You know, it's all governed by the FCC, I think, or is that right? The Federal Communications Commission. And there's some language in there about master plan communities and adding rules that protect aesthetics, but not being overly restrictive, so that we've eliminated, you know, the ability of ham operators to operate. So anyway, that's the one thing that was pulled out, and everything else was approved. So I will get you guys copies. I will make copies and get you new copies of the protection.
When you say copy, you mean revised copy of the covenants?
Yeah, I'm going to I'll print you a new one and hold it so you can replace what you're using today when you're reviewing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, as long as we're on the subject of George, we do have room for one more person on the board, on our committee, right? 'Cause we need 7, or we can get up to 7, right?
Yep.
Stephanie, would you have a feel, since you've worked with him, would you have a feel if Ray Lehman would be interested in joining us?
Well, the problem is that Ray is on 2 other committees right now. He's on
2. I thought he was just on 1.
Well, he's on that master plan committee, but he's also on the marketing subcommittee. But maybe he might be. Yeah, he might be. I need to, and honestly, you know, the fate of that master plan advisory committee is a bit up in the air, just not knowing for sure what the direction the new board is going to take. So it may it may open up his time slot a bit anyways if that changes. So we can look at that. I can visit with him.
All right. You'll mention to him? Okay, good.
Well, and we can open it back up, you know. Obviously we're going to have a new board liaison assigned to us soon. I haven't been given that information yet on who that is. I think I'll know who it is, but I haven't been told. So for the next meeting, we should have our new board liaison. Mike Adika left the board, and he was filling in for Buddy after Buddy left. So we just hadn't even.
Oh, we'll probably get Tucker, no?
Yeah, I would put my money on Tucker.
Yeah, me too. I would assume Tucker. I just haven't I would assume Tucker's going to be our liaison. I just haven't, or our board committee member now, not liaison, but I haven't been given that official notice.
Actually, it probably should not be him because there's a conflict of interest there. But anyway, why don't we, just put that aside for now. Mike Medica wasn't at the meeting. He wasn't at the board meeting yesterday, and he's not on today. Is there a problem, or is it just the fact that he's leaving and et cetera? I mean,
Well, officially,
officially
he's no longer on the board, but Mike he has a compromised system, so he was just protecting himself amid, the COVID. He just elected to do it remotely, his board.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we don't have anything from Mike. You don't have anything to submit on his behalf.
I mean, I can. Probably everybody has heard the news about the board and who the chair people and the officers, the directors. Is everybody familiar with the board meeting yesterday, or do you want me to?
I'm losing you. It's coming in and out. So.
Oh, okay. So the board did meet yesterday, and the CEO presented an annual report, and that's online, so you can go online and look at that. So the report is, and then they covered a myriad of other business. The comprehensive master plan folks gave their annual report. The auditors were there. They gave their report, and then finished up kind of the normal agenda. And then the old board left, and the new board was seated, and so they did elect officers. Diana Podewilz is the chair. Sherman is the vice chair. Who's
the vice chair?
Lloyd Sherman.
You mean what did Tormy decide not to take a spot, or did he not get elected?
He did not get elected.
No, he didn't run for He didn't run for a slot.
Yeah, so there was a nomination for Tormy, and then a nomination for Diana, and Diana won the nomination 5-2. And then there was a nomination for Lloyd, and he was not opposed, so he was seated as vice chair. And then they actually chose to bring in Marcy Mermel, an ex officio board member, to serve as the corporate secretary. And instead of Leslie in the past, and then instead of Liz as treasurer, serving as a CFO and also the treasurer, they elected to bring in a third party outside of the board, Dan Elward, and he is now serving as the treasurer for the board. So that is what happened. Kind of unprecedented, at least in my 30 years. I've never seen that happen, but certainly they have that problem. That's what they did, so we'll see how that goes.
And it gets more exciting because there is a called meeting of the board Monday.
Yeah, I think Diana has, was it Monday? I don't know. I know that
he has two working groups, the first and second Wednesday of each month.
Yeah, but there also is a special called meeting of the board on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So anyways, yes, this is a new leadership team, and we'll support them as best we can. Hope good things for Hot Springs Village.
Well, I thought it was rather humorous with the CMP report that they talked about squelching the mountain bike trail because it would be around our watershed. And I just sat there with my mouth open because being on the Trails Committee, we squelched that over 2 years ago. I'm like, do they not pay attention to what their other committees are discussing and talking about?
I didn't even catch that, Janet. I didn't even catch that. So, Well, anyway, that's really everything that I know about the board meeting yesterday. And like I said, as soon as I know who our new board liaison will be or board committee member will be, I'll let you know. But I'm pretty sure it'll be Tucker.
Dan? If
Okay.
it's all right.
Yeah.
If it's all right with you, I'm not going to put any of that as part of our minutes.
No,
You know what?
he's not gonna
Thank
put
you.
it part of our minute.
Oh, that's fine.
It just be advised too, on the Facebook site, through the last 6 months or so, Tucker had posted that he had raised money to hire an attorney to sue the members of the ACC.
Is this over the DeSoto project? Or just in general?
Probably stemming from that. And he's also talked about how once he comes into power with his election, he will change the covenants, he will change how ACC works.
Hey, that was electioneering. That's perfectly legitimate.
But I'm just giving it as a forewarning.
Yeah, okay.
We'll just wait.
Well, what may happen, and, everybody, the whole village will be dealing with these things in the next coming months and maybe years. So, whatever it is, Okay, any old business or is new business?
Nope.
And we don't have too many guests today. And unless somebody has something they want to say, there's a motion to adjourn. Anybody? Motion.
So moved.
Make a
Second.
motion, second, third.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Have a great day.
All right, everybody, take care.
Staff, hey, staff,
Everybody,